In June of 2013, one of the worst iterations of Superman would take to theaters for the very first time in what can only be called one of the most colorless and sauceless movies of all time. This Superman would be played by Henry Cavill and somehow would actually captivate some audience members and garner a fan base while ushering in what can only be described as the dark ages for DC when it comes to live action comic book movies. Fast forward more than a decade and a new, much better iteration of Superman would hit the big screen, played by David Corenswet, in one of the most endearing and heartwarming superhero stories we've seen to date. But I'm not a film critic, so I don't care about that stuff at all. I want to know which of these Supermen could win against the other from their respective debut movies. If it wasn't obvious already, that means you're going to get spoilers for the recent Superman movie here, so I hope you've seen it. The structure of this video is going to be very simple. We'll take a look at each Superman's statistics and abilities, and from those determine who is more than likely going to win in a battle. For the sake of clarity, I'm going to call David Corenswet Superman as either David Corenswet or Superman 2025, and refer to Henry Cavill as Henry Cavill or the Man of Steel, but this will only be relevant when I'm having to speak about both of them at the same time. When I'm talking about each movie, I'll just call them Superman. Subscribe to the channel, by the way. I want 1 million subscribers before 2026, and I'm only 4 subscribers away from it. Superman 2025 is actually pretty cracked, but let's get a few things out of the way before we start to talk about his power. Superman in this movie is basically never at full power. Well, he's on screen anyway. Prior to the movie's beginning, Superman lost to Ultraman as the Hammer of Baravia, but Ultraman is literally just a clone of Superman, and he's being piloted by someone who had studied Superman's every move with a set of literally over 2,500 moves specifically to counter Superman. And on top of that, he's in a suit of armor that makes him even stronger. Despite these crazy advantages, Superman still manages to fight Ultraman for almost 3 hours, and to be more exact, he fought him for 2 hours and 57 minutes. At the beginning of the movie, the Hammer of Baravia attacked Superman 3 hours ago, and Superman had lost the fight 3 minutes ago. After successfully retreating from the Fortress of Solitude, Superman is given magnified sunlight to help him recover faster. This only brings him back up to 83%, however, as stated by the Superman robots. He then goes back to Metropolis and loses to Ultraman again while getting beaten up. Against the kaiju, Superman is holding back, trying to find a way to put it down safely before the Justice Gang shows up and kills it. In the Pocket universe, he has kryptonite poisoning, and in the final act of the movie, he's still holding back on Ultraman and Engineer, which I'll get more into later. Statements from James Gunn saying that this Superman is beatable likely refer to these physical or mental restraints he constantly places on Superman, so when he's fighting someone as strong as him, they have an advantage, and when fighting someone or something weaker than him, he normally holds back. Despite these restraints, we're still dealing with a monster of a metahuman. Off the bat, we're told that of the 3 centuries of metahumans to exist in this universe, Superman is the most powerful metahuman of all, meaning that any feats performed by any other metahuman, Superman should likely also be capable of. Granted, they don't require some obscure power he doesn't possess, like Metamorpho creating any element or something like that. Superman actually performs one of his most impressive feats in the beginning of the movie. Like I mentioned earlier, we're told Superman lost his first fight to Ultraman 3 minutes ago, and then he crash lands near the Fortress of Solitude, meaning that he made it from Metropolis to Antarctica within those 3 minutes. And he did it while not even being able to fly correctly, literally having to be drugged by Crypto back to the fortress. Metropolis in this movie is stated to be in Delaware, similar to some comic book iterations, so we need to calculate the distance between Delaware and Antarctica, which is about 9,200 miles, and for anyone who's not American, that's about 14,800 kilometers. Since we don't know where in Antarctica Superman's fortress is, I'll assume it's on the tip of the continent at the closest point to Delaware, meaning Superman, while weakened, crossed that distance in less than 3 minutes. To do something like that, he'd have to be moving somewhere around Mach 240 or 184,000 miles per hour. And Superman did this while at lower than 83%, as healing him up only brought him to 83%, as stated by the Superman robots. Even if we assume he was at 82%, which is wildly disingenuous, he'd be a little over 224,000 miles per hour at full power, which would make him a lightning timer. And keep in mind, I on multiple occasions downplayed this feat. I picked the lowest distance to Antarctica, and I picked the level of power Superman was clearly far below when the feat was performed. Engineer also followed Superman here, but that'll be important later, just keep that in mind for now. How fast would Superman be if I highballed this feat? It's very simple. We'll assume his fortress is at the furthest point from Delaware and Antarctica, and he was at 1% of his power when he flew back after getting beaten by Ultraman. If it's the furthest point, then Superman traveled at 214 miles per hour to get there, and if he was at 1% power, he'd be 21,400,000 miles per hour at full power, which would put him at about 3% the speed of light. But we'll stick to the low ball for now, just to try and get more of a consistent answer at the end of this video. Superman has more feats in this movie that some might consider impressive, the most insane of which being when he manages to overpower a black hole with his ice breath and save his own life. I'll get into how strong this makes him later, but for now let's talk about how fast Superman is here. Let's talk about the size of this black hole, as that'll be important. For these calculations, I'm going to use the black hole known as the unicorn, which is the smallest black hole that we know of and is about 3 times the mass of our sun and about 1,500 light years away. Some people have tried to say that this black hole is only the size of Earth, considering Mr. Terrific's statement where he says that if you try to create a pocket universe and you're even a picometer off, you'll get a black hole where Earth used to be, but that does not mean that it would only be the size of Earth. Even if the black hole was 1,000,000 times bigger than Earth, but still in the same spot, you would get a black hole where Earth used to be. The size is only important here because I actually think you can kind of prove Superman is close to the event horizon of this black hole, which would make escape require near light speed movement. Had Superman entered the event horizon, this would require FTL movement, but honestly, I'm going purely off of visuals here. The antiprotons headed for the black hole lose their light at a specific part of the black hole, which is right around here. After this point, the only thing visible is the black hole in the background, and Superman gets right on the edge of this before doing his final breath to escape. Looking at it, I'd say he's honestly just a few inches away, and the movie I think supports this in a way that it's portraying what Superman did as a last second save. But if I am right about this being the event horizon, let's just say instead of a few inches, he's 20 whole meters away from the event horizon. That would still make this feat close to light speed. And keep in mind, this is while he's weakened from kryptonite poisoning. Scaling this to combat speed is very simple. After beginning to move backwards, Superman is still able to grab Krypto and pull him back with him, showing that he can indeed react to this speed. And yes, he would be moving near the speed of light here already, as he's already started to move backwards, and escape velocity for this point in a black hole, the smallest one we've ever known of, is close to light speed like I pointed out earlier. This level of speed is consistent for the Man of Tomorrow as well, considering that James Gunn implied in an interview prior to the movie's release that if Superman attempted to do what was done in Superman 1978, wherein Christopher Reeves was able to turn back time by reversing the spin of the Earth, he would be able to do it, but the outcome would be different, wherein the Superman of 2025 would have crushed every living being on Earth and land wondering what he had just done. This feat puts Christopher Reeve's Superman at about 3.65 times faster than the speed of light, and should be applied to this Superman as well via Gunn's statement. The downplay to this is normally someone saying something along the lines of Lex Luthor is able to react to Superman and properly counter him, but the movie kind of tells us that's not what's going on. What Lex is doing is predicting what Superman will do before he even does it, as one of his workers even comments that it's like he knows what Superman is doing and what moves he's going to make before he even makes it. Other times, Superman is blatantly holding back, like when he flies into the sky after being caught by Engineer's nanites. We know he's holding back here because Engineer is able to catch up to him, where earlier in the movie she couldn't even catch up to him when he was weakened on the way back to Antarctica, and she actually lagged behind a good bit as Superman had time to heal and leave before she even got close to the fortress. I'd argue she'd also left at the same time he did, given the entire plan of Lex is for her to follow him and find his secret hideout, and they also notably have no way to track Superman. On his last legs, barely able to move, Superman can perform feats at the speed of lightning. With his last breath, he can propel himself at almost light speed, and he's capable of moving FTL like Christopher Reeves. So what does the Man of Steel or Henry Cavill Superman have to respond and keep up with the newer generation? Starting with some offense for him, his laser eyes are stated to be beams of light. He cannot, however, fly or fight this fast, but that doesn't mean he's not a pretty fast guy. Feats like flying to a satellite in his fight with Zod are calced anywhere from Mach 1595 to 1.8 times the speed of light, or around subrelativistic. Superman during his first ever flight also flies from the Fortress of Solitude located in Ellesmere Island all the way to Africa. He does this in just around 7 seconds, and depending on the route he took, the feat could be anywhere from Mach 9,899 to Mach 10,092. This would far surpass at least the weakened Superman 2025's flight speed of around Mach 240, but doesn't surpass his higher levels of speed. This Superman also has similar feats of escaping a black hole, but considering the size of the black hole and how far away he actually was from it, the feat is nowhere near as impressive, and his other feats are actually far more impressive when it comes to the power scaling. For speed, we pretty much end with Superman 2025 being superior. While the Man of Steel does have light speed attacks with his laser eyes and likely relativistic movement and reactions, this is not enough for him to even react to the dying breath of Superman 2025, and Superman 2025 should be more than capable of reacting to and dodging the Man of Steel's lasers, as we see him able to do it in his own movie when fighting against Ultraman, and these are stated to be lasers, and lasers are light speed. Superman 2025's 3.65 time FTL speeds is likely also a speed he has to build up to, and Superman 2025 would not annihilate the planet to kill the Man of Steel, so in this scenario, we do have a clear winner in speed, but we still need to talk about their strength and durability to see if we have an unstoppable force versus immovable object situation going on. We'll continue on with Cavill Superman here, since we did Davis first in the last section. In the 2013 film, Superman was able to smash through silos while fighting against Zod, and while flying and accidentally crash landing into the tip of the mountain. Both these feats range within the town level to large town levels of AP, depending on whether you take the lower or higher end interpretations. Feats that literally pale in comparison by orders of magnitude next to him one-shotting the World Engine. The World Engine is literally meant to terraform planets and transform the environment into one ready for Kryptonians. While it doesn't do it in one go, based on just the level it would raise Earth's GVE to in a week, the World Engine has been calced to being multi-continental per hit to the planet, and Superman is able to literally just stand in it and eventually able to fly through the beam and destroy the machine altogether. As far as Superman 2025, he's able to lift buildings, effortlessly hold up the dead weight of a kaiju, defeat Ultraman, a clone of himself, in a one-on-one fight. He's called the strongest metahuman of all time by James Gunn, and the strongest in the universe by the actor who portrays him. But in a universe that's getting its feet off the ground, such statements barely matter and don't really mean much. And most impressively, as I've gone over earlier, he was able to escape from the pull of a black hole while extremely close to its event horizon. While this feat looks extremely visually impressive, the power behind it isn't what you might think it is. Using the same distance from the event horizon we used earlier, Superman would only need to generate around large mountain levels of force. While it is important to mention that he's weakened here, it's also not as relevant since I have no percentage of power or something to bring to you to say he should normally be able to do something 1 million times stronger or even double this level of strength at his normal level. So even though he was weakened, this is kind of his ceiling when it comes to quantifiable power. Given the fact that the Man of Steel also has comparable durability to the strength he pulled off, it doesn't seem likely that even with a speed advantage that Superman 2025 would even be able to harm the Man of Steel. he would likely hit him and end up looking like a bug on a car windshield, and that really only gets worse if you make the speed gap even bigger. Both Supermen like to fly into their opponents as a basic move in their combat, and with the Man of Steel being so much slower by comparison, it's Cornsweat's move, and if he chooses to open the fight this way, he's going to end up killing himself in the process. Things kind of only get worse when you add in feats from later movies when it comes to the Man of Steel, since after being revived by the Mother Boxes, he's stronger than Steppenwolf by a considerable amount, who had once fought a variant of Doomsday that shattered one of the moons of Krypton. Superman is also stated to be stronger than a planet by Batman numerous times, and after his revival is so much faster than his Justice League counterparts that they look like they are genuinely standing still next to him. Saying he was equal to Wonder Woman before is a bit of a stretch, but they were far more comparable in Batman vs Superman, and since they were fighting the same person, I doubt Wonder Woman was this much slower than him in that movie as well. The only possible saving grace for Cornsweat is a little Easter egg placed in the movie wherein Superman mentions that the Justice Gang is battling some dimensional imp. Typically in the larger DC universe, dimensional imps originate from the 5th dimension. This isn't Mr. Mxyzptlk or anything like that. James Gunn did confirm that much. But Nathan Fillion, the actor for Guy Gardner in this film, also said that interdimensional imps do indeed exist, and I'll put that quote on screen for you to read. But honestly, is this supposed to be showing the Justice Gang can fight off 5th dimensional creatures? I don't know. It's probably just a fun Easter egg meant to set up maybe another story with the dimensional imps in the future. Who knows? If you want to believe this universe is 5th dimensional, then yeah, I guess Superman 2025 would destroy the Man of Steel. I'm just not comfortable making that specific claim yet. This video was pretty annoying to make. A lot of this stuff is super convoluted, but I tried to simplify it as best I could. If someone wants to provide extra context or maybe something I missed in the comments, feel free to. But if you like the video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel. And other than that, have a nice day.